let's jump right into Predator Concrete Jungle the game and take a look.
To my knowledge, this is the only game where you just play as the Predator. True, there was a game on the Game Boy called Alien vs. Predator: The Last of His Clan, but that was just an Alien vs. Predator game, where this is just a solely Predator game. Also, I would go as far to say that this is the only Predator game not to be based on a film. The game itself is not based on the book of the same name. It literally has absolutely nothing to do with it at all, which, as you'll find out later, is actually a good thing.
Now, one of the big problems with reviewing games is that all I'm doing is expressing my opinion. And that being said, many probably will not share this opinion, like with Batman Arkham Asylum. However, whenever I do a video game review, I always like to have data to back up my position.
I clearly showed that all you do is beat up the same bad guys throughout Arkham Asylum. And also, I clearly showed that the level with Killer Croc was indeed a croc!
Now, when I went to buy the game, I was told by the individuals working at that particular game store that all this game amounted to was invisible pimps and hookers. Well, I bought it anyway. And, surprise, surprise, there was only one level in the entire game where there were any pimps or hookers to be found. And basically, you slaughtered both. Now, the idea that that's all this game amounted to, it's just ludicrous. In fact, about halfway through the game, you're in a futuristic city fighting futuristic soldiers.
From the title screen on, you know that this game was made with Predator fans in mind. This game is so close with the canon that you would think that there was a real writer actually working on it. Wait, what? There was one? Huh, no wonder it's so good. The title screen is an obvious homage to the famous scene in Predator 2 where the Predator yells out his mighty victory cry on top of a clock tower. This scene is also alluded to later in the game. Even the difficulty settings reflect Predator canon. For easy, you have unblooded, for medium, young blood, and for hard blooded.
Wow. The game's more accurate than any of the AVP films ever were.
You also have a costume selection screen. You basically get new costumes and weapons by completing hidden objectives. For the costumes, you have Arnie's Predator. This costume is unlocked in the very second level and is done by killing a very obvious bad guy. The AVP Predator costume is unlocked by killing some snipers about halfway through the game. The Predator 2 costume is unlocked by killing a certain number of enemies in one of the later levels. And the Dark Blade Clan costume is unlocked by killing another easy-to-find enemy.
Really, the developers of this game actually knew what they were doing when it came to these costumes. Unlike in other games where you really have to go out of your way to unlock anything, much less the actual stuff that you want, here they basically just give it to you. For all of the important costumes, all you have to do is kill bad guys that you would have had to kill anyway. And that is actually pretty easy to do.
What makes it even better is the fact that in the non-pre-rendered cutscenes, you actually get to see the Predator in the costume you have chosen. Gameplay is from a third-person perspective, and this is both good and bad. The good is, for a sole Predator game, this allows you to do all kinds of platforming and things like that. The bad is, the camera is absolutely terrible. When you're going through open spaces, it's not that bad, so long as you just keep going forward. But whenever you try to move, well, it's very hard to see where it is you're going. Precision jumping is a matter of guesswork. It's really difficult to know whether or not you're going to land on the platform. Your greatest enemy in the game is the camera, because there are times when it just stops working. Now, you can manually control the camera with the right thumbstick, but there are times when you don't have time to manually aim the camera, especially when you've got like 30 bad guys shooting at you and you've got only 3% health. You really just don't have time to stop. Just look at this. Also, look at this. What's going on? I can't see! What, did the Lakitu brothers get drunk or something? That aside, the game does include a targeting button that targets a single enemy, and this works fairly well, and it does help out quite a bit. But when you have times like this, well, it's less than useful. but this is fairly rare. You can go into a first-person view, you just can't move. And when you go into this view, you are literally a sitting duck, or reptile, or whatever the case may be. This view is used for several things, the most important being sniping. The third-person view is not really conducive to accuracy. You can also use this view for the vocal mimicry. This is used in several instances to gain access to different secure areas. The last use of the first-person view is the scanning system. When in third-person view, you can change vision modes to find different objects and items throughout the map. What vision mode you are in changes what shows up on the minimap. If your enemies are cloaked, they won't show up on thermal, but they will show up on PredTech, and vice versa. PredTech is also good for finding recharge points. Essentially, you find these to recharge your enemy, because unlike an AVP or an AVP2, your energy does not recharge on its own. When in first person, the vision modes provide different scanning options. Thermal shows armor, Neural shows allegiance, and PredTech shows technology. When you first play the game, you're going to need to scan different enemies to learn their various weaknesses. For example, some may be protected against bladed and energy attacks, but not to brute force attacks, and vice versa. Sound design is both good and bad. The various Predator sound effects are reproduced fairly well. And one really awesome thing is the different costumes have different sound effects. For example, when you play as Arnie's Predator, the sounds are from that particular film. When you play as the Predator from AVP, the sound reflects those heard in AVP. In addition, the visual effects of the different costumes also reflect the different Predator films as well. But outside of that, the basic sound effects are pretty basic. The Predator always sounds like he is running on rocks, even when he isn't. The guns all sound the same, and the voice acting is pretty good, meaning that most of the time the voice actors sound like they can actually act, but there are some times where they sound pretty stupid as well. As for the music, it's okay, it's not annoying, nothing really stands out, and they don't have the Predator theme. I'm guessing they couldn't afford it. If that was the case, it was better to spend money on the actual game rather than on some piece of music. Graphics, as you can see, are pretty good for the PS2. The basic enemy NPCs don't look all that good, but the bosses are well detailed and the Predator just looks awesome. Everything on him just looks great. All the details are there. You can see little skulls and things of that nature. The game itself is really highly polished. All these little extras here and there just go above and beyond. Here you have the weapons rack. You get to see all of the currently unlocked weapons laid out in a very awesome manner. And when you click on them, you get a little bit of backstory. You have two upgrades. You have the ritual upgrade that only modifies the basic stats marginally, and then the clan upgrade that really soups up the weapon, in addition to looking really cool. You get weapon upgrades by finding them in the game world. I really don't know why Predators like to leave them out where people can find them, but really, who can understand the mind of an alien? I will say this for them, the upgrades are fairly difficult to find, and this here is just awesome in every sense of the word. When you kill a boss, you perform a skull rip, and after doing so, his head ends up on the trophy wall.
What other game rewards you for killing a boss by allowing you to put his skull on a wall?
This is supremely satisfying if you have to face a boss that takes like 10 tries to kill. When you click on one of the different skulls, you also get some backstory as well, and that's a pretty nice touch. On the other side here, you have your various sub-achievements. Throughout the game, you can complete other hidden objectives. Usually it's just something basic like kill random idiot AA-23 or destroy 6 boxes or flip a switch or something like that. When you do, you get a minor upgrade to your personal stats like more hit points or more armor or greater inventory space or an alternate costume. You also get a bit of story as well, once more proving that there was an actual writer on this project.
So now that the actual game part is out of the way, let's take a look at the surprisingly well-written story. Now, I will talk about a few gameplay things here and there, but I'm primarily going to be concerned with what's going on story-wise. And yes, spoilers are definitely a given.
When you start the game, you are immediately thrust into the action. You have no idea what's going on or what has happened. All you know is that your Predator is injured and you have to get to the ship. When you get near it, the ground collapses and you are trapped. This predator, whom I'm going to name Ned for the time being, decides he doesn't want to get captured and blows up his ship right in the middle of a major city. He does, and survives, only to be picked up by his Yachtja compatriots, and they are none too pleased. This is probably what they were saying.
You really screwed up this time, Ned. First you kill the president, and now you blow up a major city. What part of Silent Shadows do you not understand? I've had enough of your excuses, and I can't cover for you anymore. Here, Merry fucking Christmas.
The city he destroys is called New Way City, which is, of course, New York City. Why they didn't just bother to call it New York, I have no idea. Really, though, you have to wonder how the press spun a major city getting destroyed by a nuclear explosion, seeing as how it took place in 1930, which was 15 years prior to the actual splitting of the atom. I'm guessing they called it an exploding weather balloon.
Well, 100 years passes, and apparently old Ned the Pred screwed up just a little bigger than previously thought.
Wonders will never cease with you around, Ned. First you reveal us to the humans, and then you leave technology behind for more of our people to be killed.
We created weapons of our own that we turned against the devil.
Okay, you're going in there, and you're taking those idiots down, or you're gonna die trying.
And that's the setup. You have a predator that is extremely inept, that has to make amends for all of his past misdeeds. Really, it's a good move, simply because you don't see the predator as a cold-blooded killer and a villain, but rather as kind of like a tragic anti-hero of sorts.
The game is remarkably similar to Crackdown, in the sense that in both games you play as a super-powered character that takes on increasingly powerful gangs. Perhaps the sequel to this game and Crackdown 2 needs to be CVP Crackdown versus the Predator. The first gang you take out is the Les Serviteurs. This is an homage to the gang seen in Predator 2. The first mission has you going around flaying Les Serviteurs.
Now that is pretty awesome. The only problem is you have to do it 4 times. It loses its novelty by about the second, and by the third it is extremely monotonous.
You also have to face a number of riot police later in the level. At first, one may be in a moral quandary. They really are just individuals doing their jobs, right? Well, that is until you have to fight these robots. At first, they seem to be an homage to the Ed 209, which is pretty awesome. That is until you kill one. The Predator jumps up on it, hits it, and then you find that there is a human inside. Now at this point on the timeline, the humans don't have androids yet. So that is a real human stuffed into this robot shell. Upon learning this, the cops are indeed fair game.
The police robo is actually a double reference. It has the overall look of an Ed 209, but the concept of a human inside controlling it is from Warhammer 40k. In that series, there are vehicles called dreadnoughts that are controlled by half-dead space marines. However, in that case, the space marines were willing, and those people probably were not.
The first boss you face is fairly basic. It really is just a slightly more powerful gang member. Taking him down on your first playthrough should not be too difficult if you exercise some patience. After the serviteurs are taken down, you then have to face some drug addicts. This level is not too difficult, but it really accentuates the stealth aspect of the game. Like in the films, the Predator has to sneak around and stick to the shadows, rarely attacking enemies head-on. Attacking enemies head-on, uncloaked, is probably the best method to get yourself killed. Sure, the Predator can shrug off a few machine gun rounds and a couple of plasma rounds here and there, but getting a full mag to the face will kill anyone, unfortunately.
Now, as you play through the game, you'll actually find that the Predator is kind of like Batman in many respects, as he does actually fight crime.
In this level, you have to stop an arms deal, and then you fight some muggers, which is actually something Batman would do. Really? You are Predator Batman. Sure, modern Batman wouldn't kill anybody, but Golden Age Batman killed people all the time. After you take down the druggies, you then have to face the mob. They are fairly easy to kill. However, you do eventually face this Brando stand-in. Well, how does he fare? Let's find out. Well, BVP certainly wouldn't be the best film, or the longest for that matter. With Brando down, you fight some cartel types. Killing them takes a lot of stages for some reason. First, you have to track down the leader named El Hongo. Then you have to disrupt his weapons trade. Then you have to take down his pimps and hookers. And then you have to face your first real threat, the Machine Men. Also during this sequence, you are introduced to the secondary antagonist named Lucretia Borgia. She is part of the Borgia Corporation, the corporation responsible for reverse engineering Predator technology. Her main role at the company is to ensure that the different gangs continue shipping reverse engineered PredTech. The Machine Men are essentially low-grade cyborgs and are somewhat dangerous. Just stay cloaked and pick them off with quick darting strikes.
When you get to the level called Sink the Shipment, the gameplay switches gears a bit. Now, prior to that level, you could probably get away with full frontal attacks. But by this point, you had better learn stealth really fast, because the game triples in difficulty. Really, you had better take as little damage as possible, because those healing charges, well, they get extremely rare.
Now, Predator Concrete Jungle is classic, in the sense that it has difficulty to it. When you start a level, you have to complete the entire level. If you die in the middle of it, you go back. There are no intrastage checkpoints. Thankfully, the game gets the levels right, and none of the deaths feel too cheap. It's usually that damned camera that gets you killed. In Sink the Shipment, you have to sneak around this port. If the alarm is raised, you fail the level. To make matters worse, you no longer have your cloaking device either. Eventually, you shut down the dock's power system and take out the shipment. And finally, you kill El Hongo, who, prior to his death, exclaims,
And it's here! El demonio! It's gonna kill us all! And I didn't even get to come!
The Predator, flaying him alive, says,
I didn't even get to come!
Wait. So apparently, the Predator receives some sort of sexual thrill when he kills a particularly worthy opponent. Perhaps he's closer to Schwarzenegger rather than Batman.
So I'm coming day and night. I mean, it's terrific, right?
I always wondered what that roaring sound meant. Ew. I guess some things are better left unknown.
After sinking the shipment and destroying a major tech depot, the Pred faces even greater foes known as the Monster Squad. No, this is not the group of kids that took down Drac, but a bunch of cybernetically enhanced super soldiers that in context with the story don't make too much sense. The Pred slaughters the lot and actually gets off with their heads. Okay, I retract that. After killing the lot, the Predator has to face an entire army of cybernetic super soldiers, and he's eventually taken down. After he falls into unconsciousness, a flashback sequence begins. There are 2 flashback levels, and a flashback boss fight. Essentially, it shows the events leading up to the first level. The final boss fight against the first Borgia is not too bad, and he is easily vanquished. However, there is a discrepancy. His skull does not appear on the wall until you beat him, even though this wall is set in 2030. So theoretically, that skull should have been there. I guess it was just a retroactive kill after all. When the Predator comes to, he is being held in one of the Borgia Company labs. This is a very hard level. Generally, you want to take this level very slowly because you can only take a grand total of 2 hits, and then you are dead. So after you fight through the lab, you then have to fight a couple of mentally reprogrammed Predators. The battle against the Predators is not too difficult. They're all easily taken down. But there is one boss fight in particular with the last Predator that is very difficult. You have no healing charges and a limited number of offensive options. However, it does make for some exhilarating moments when you have maybe 1 hit point and the thing is only half dead. Eventually, we learn that the Predator is even dumber than we thought. After he killed Bruno Borgia, he went to his wife to gloat, apparently. He removes his mask and is promptly shot.
Really? Ned the Pred really should have stuck to fighting xenomorphs and never even tried against humans, because apparently he is pretty stupid!
Towards the end of the game, you do get to fight some xenomorphs. And it gets even better. Just watch this.
Hello, Scarface. Long time no see. I suppose you think you've got me just where you want me now, but say hello to my little friends. Have fun together.
Alright, fine, I'll stop calling him Ned the Pred and start calling him Scarface.
You don't fight the aliens, you just run! There are too many, and you take acid damage. Your only real offensive option is the mines. Drop them and keep going. Finally, we get to meet the main antagonist, Isabella Borgia, the mother of Hunter Borgia, the head of Borgia Industries and Lucretia's father. We learned several things from her. One, she and her son basically drink the blood of the Predators to live extremely long lives. Isabella is basically the prototype for the mother computer system seen in Alien. She also prattles on about being somehow in love with Scarface. He, of course, does not buy it for a minute and promptly kills her. As one would expect, the final battle has you pitted against Hunter Borgia. And note to parents, never name your kid Hunter, because this is what happens. The battle with him is somewhat different than you would expect, as the Predator actually gets the aid of Lucretia's Ronin. Although, when he plays back this audio, we get a continuity error. She says this in her control room. At no time can the Predator see or hear her. So perhaps he bugged the facility? J. Edgar Hoover is the Predator. The battle eventually spills out onto the roof of a very tall building.
Wait, Danny, it gets worse.
Eventually, you fight him up to this giant statue.
I said wait already, it gets worse.
The final battle takes place on the statue's hand. The entire time, you are fully focused on not falling in addition to not taking damage. Now, you can say it, Danny.
Why can't this guy stay on the ground?
So, you beat down Hunter, humiliate him, cut his head off, and finally head for home with a successful hunt completed. There is a cutscene at the end foreshadowing the events of Aliens that also explains why there was interstellar space travel by 2130.
Now before we call this video to a close, I want to highlight the similarities between this game and AVP Eternal.
In the comic, this Chinese guy here finds a crashed Predator ship and heals himself by consuming Predator flesh. Later on, he forms a massive corporation based around reverse-engineered Predator technology. In addition to that, he also has xenomorphs stored in an underground laboratory. In the game, the Predator drops some Pred tech that is picked up by a mafia boss's wife, whose son is healed through Predator blood. The two then live on Predator flesh and create a a massive corporation based around PredTech, and also have aliens in an underground lab. One could almost say that Predator Concrete Jungle was a loose game adaptation of AVP Eternal. It really has quite a few similarities, but it does get away with it by placing the Predator in the starring role.
And that is Predator Concrete Jungle. Now, if you're a Predator fan or just a third-person shooter fan, I recommend hunting down this game, because you will not be disappointed. So this is General Lotz wishing you good Sins of a Solar Empire, good Forces of Corruption with the Z3 Rocks mod, or whatever makes you happy.